Wired Unplugged.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wired Unplugged, episode 38.
38.
It's me, Jake Lukowski, and Survivor, Aaron Cooper. Hell yeah, you did it. Whoa!
We did it.
You did it. Yeah, I can't remember what hijinks you got up to last week. There was too many to count, really. But I remember thinking, this guy's had it. He's toast.
I didn't think I'd be back. I'm not going to lie.
That's what I mean. But here you are. There we go. Benevolent overlords.
Defied the odds. Defied the odds. Got kept on until they find a suitable replacement, of course.
All right. Well, listen.
Gary. Gary will be here next week.
Shouts out, Gary, of course. And hey,
Gary,
yeah. Hello, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Maybe you're watching this on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel. You can go and check it out if you want. Maybe you're listening to this. Maybe you're just listening to this. If you are, there's a whole visual aid to this podcast. We are real people, and you can look at our faces while we give our opinions by going on YouTube. Just type in Wired Unplugged. There's actually like loads of Wired content. We talk about it nearly every week. But if you're new here, maybe you've just like seen the sort of SEO-friendly clickbaity title we've given this. Well, guess what? We're going to tell you all about it in a bit. If you've got any questions for the show, though, in the meantime, you can kind of email in if you want, if you still do email in. It's unplugged@wiredproductions.com. If you're on social media, hell site, Twitter, you can tweet us at WiredP, P for podcast, P for productions, or Wired Unplugged, which is the real place where it's at, because we're verified. We didn't pay $8 to be verified. We're verified because we're lit.
Legit.
We are so legit, man. We done it. We did it.
Legit.
Have we got like the official? You know that little thing? I don't even know. They've been taking features away and adding them to Twitter.
Do you know what? Do you know what though? At the start of every episode, we say send in your questions. People should send in their questions. It'd be great to read them. Now, the things that we do get to the email, it's raunchy fanfic that we can't read out.
It actually has been that before. Yeah,
there's language in there that we are no longer allowed to use, just to keep us,
that's right,
on the radar.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
If you have something non-fanfic steamy, non-steamy, I should say, send in. What's Jake's favorite? What's his favorite chillax game?
Do you want me to answer that? Or
why not? Why not? Let's just role play how this would go.
My favorite, I would say, dear Aaron, my favorite game to relax is a game about deep-rooted Catholicism and mother issues. The Binding of Isaac. Thank you very much. Thanks for getting in touch. Oh wait, I'm getting in touch with you. Yeah. Dante's Inferno. That'd be your game, or you just?
Dante's. That's not my chillax game. I'm gonna. It's a bit heavy, but I actually enjoyed that game.
It's good,
because it gave me a Castlevania style fix when one was not available.
Yeah. Well, take notes, Konami. Anyway, we're gonna get to you and everyone else in a little bit, because if you're new to this podcast, then you might know that we talk about the news at large towards the end of the podcast. But first, there's always a little gift for you listeners, where you get a little insight into what's going on at Wired headquarters every week. And there really is something every week. In fact, there's multiple things. It's the Wired Propaganda segment, baby. Fire up the cannons.
Wired Propaganda.
I had a really tough mental image in my head then. I thought, if Wired did have a cannon, what would it fire out of it? And then I thought, well, the logo's razors. And then I thought, a razor blade cannon. That sounds badass.
KFC. It'd be KFC. Let's be honest.
That Kentucky Fried Cannon. Yeah.
KFC for everyone. Why not?
Imagine firing out razor blades out of a cannon. That's such like an anime thing.
It'd be kind of like, I don't know if they still do this, but when I used to live in Birmingham in the Midlands, there's the Birmingham Bull Ring. And then right at the bottom, there used to be a Krispy Kreme. And at certain times on the day, they'd light the bat signal of the Krispy Kreme sign. It'd spin around, and that'd be the beckoning call to come and get a free donut, a free original glazed donut. Because, I don't know why they did that. I think it was just,
was it to lure people in before shooting them with a cannon full of razor blades? Because otherwise, I don't know how this ties in.
It's kind of like, come to Watford at like 12:35 every Friday, and you get some KFC.
The firing of the Kentucky Fried Cannon. Yeah. There
Kentucky Fried Cannon?
Yeah.
KFC? Yes.
There we go.
We need to have a word with them again.
That's it. Well, that's what's not going on at Wired this week, unfortunately for everyone in the the Watford area. But what is happening? Because there's quite a lot.
So I was just taking a bit of a sip of some tea there. Last week you weren't well, right?
That's right.
And this week I don't feel so good. So I've got some nice tea to soothe what ails me.
Don't mention the brand. They're not paying us.
No, until they pay us, until we get that ad where we come up with some cool skit to try and sell tea.
You're going to have to use your imagination, folks.
Yeah, it'll just be a segment. It'll go very Drag Race. It's just like, what's the tea, Jake? There's some gossip while drinking a tea.
Yeah. I'll be up for that.
Shantae, you stay. So let's kick it off. This is something that we discussed last week, but it's an ongoing process and there is still time to throw your hat in the ring. Wired are hiring. We're hiring for multiple roles across QA, PR, product managers, and many more. And if you want to take your first step into the world of video games, it's an easy first step, trust me. The first step is applying and trying, right? But if you do want to get in with a good bunch of award-winning creatives, then
nice,
throw your hat in the ring, give it a go, and, get paid for games.
Yeah, you don't,
and enjoy the KFC cannon, of course.
Yeah, which may or may not be real. But it's a great opportunity for anyone who doesn't know. The video game industry can be full of megacorps and conglomerates where you'll get no feedback. You won't be able to apply for something so open normally. So why there are a bunch of real people that will have real opinions about you, so you can apply and you might hear something nice. You might not. No, I'm joking. But yeah,
let's for example, right? Let's take the wonderful Gary, right?
Yeah.
So
friend of the show.
Gary became a friend of Wired around I think it was around the Grip days. So when we were pre-promoting Grip and so on, he became very involved. He did some really cool streams for the game. And then, a conversation was had of, hey, we like you. Would you want to come and potentially work at Wired? There was a desire to have someone move into community and social. And that's how Gary came back. And now he has ascended to become a product manager. So, he is he took his first
so
step.
Brilliant, man. I don't know why it's funny. Yeah.
He took his first step just by being randomly involved. And now look at him thrive. And,
exactly.
he's even hosted.
I was going to say, he gets to sit on here with me. Yeah. He enjoys his time.
Big task.
That's what he says. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
you could enjoy your time with me
I was
too.
awkwardly pausing there because I'm getting a phone call and I'm like, no,
that's so funny. Yeah.
I can't answer. So I'm just going to put that on the floor.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can't hear the
vibration.
Gary.
I'd like to say a big thanks for the kind words.
Yeah. So it's KFC cannon. No, seriously, do throw your hat in the ring. You can only try.
Yeah. And multiple jobs as well. It's not like, just have a little look around in it. All right. Yeah. What else we got going on in Wired this week?
This is something cool that's happened. So a free update has been deployed for Martha is Dead. And this is quite exciting for me, Jake, because, listen, I've previously mentioned how good those cows look in Martha is Dead, right? How realistic they look. So now they're going to look even more realistic. And this is thanks to AMD FidelityFX 2.1. Integration alongside Intel's XeSS super sampling tech as well. So, the game already looks absolutely incredible as it was. And this new tech that's come through has allowed that to ascend, like Gary, into greater heights. And I think, this is a game where it sounds so cliche to say, but the location is a character, right? And I think how good that location works and looks keeps you grounded in the story, what's going on. Because you have to remember as well, if you haven't seen the Wired making of documentary for Martha, do check it out, because the location in the game is real. It's a real place, and it looks real as well. But the fact that it now looks even better, it would just add that extra weight to the game and everything that takes place in the stories and the history. So give it a go. It's free. It's a free
really
update.
Nice thing to optimize graphical fidelity, because it's something that's very overlooked, and it's actually the secret to a lot of really impressive looking things you see online. I think that's super sampling was one of the big components of that Call of Duty Amsterdam scene that was setting the internet on fire recently. The funny thing about the FidelityFX thing that you mentioned, right, was I know the Intel super sampling thing, so I was interested in this actually because I'm
intimately.
Exactly. I'm in the credits.
Go for a drink.
The FidelityFX. Speaking of cows, I looked it up, and do you know what they use to show off the greatness of the FidelityFX farm simulator? So I've seen the potential for these cows now. So honestly, if you want to upgrade your bovine experience, you can now for free.
Bovine experience. They were already good-looking cows, but now...
exactly finesse. So shouts out to the PC gang. Yeah.
Finesse. The finesse of the cows has improved. It's in the in the patch notes. The update notes.
Cow finesse.
Cow finesse improved by 80%.
Designer leather now.
Yeah. There's something else. There's something else that's gone on that is so random. I couldn't see it to verify it though. But John Cena has followed the Wired Unplugged Twitter feed.
Is that true?
Like, so it's legit. Like, seriously, take a look. Go to at Wired Unplugged.
Do it right now. And
let's do it now.
The folks at home want to go and check it out. Wired Unplugged, just on Twitter. I'm just typing this in. Oh, there we are. The weekly gaming video podcast from Wired P. With us, okay. Some followers.
Yeah. Oh. Scroll down just a little bit.
Oh my!
You might not be able to see him, but yeah. How is that? I think
he follows me as well. I didn't even know
official. You just never see him coming. That's the thing.
I
think the official Wired account's a little bit jealous. They're like, "What's going on?
Big fan, on, John?" Isn't he? That's all. But
John Cena.
If you're listening,
let's plead to John Cena's
publicist.
Let's be honest, he is a very good person. He does a lot of good in the world for charity, for Make-A-Wish and so on. But if John Cena ever wants to come on Wired Unplugged and to talk a bit about his wrestling career, to talk a bit about his film career, to talk a bit about Glory Gaynor, to talk a bit about video games as well, you are absolutely more than welcome. And I hope that this is one of those things that Curtis clips for Twitter. It's like a plea, a state of address for John Cena.
And to sort of kind of use a judo throw, which is where I'm going to be using John Cena's own words against him, or weaponizing them to help bring us together. I'm going to quote you a couple of John Cena tweets that hopefully, John, if you're listening, you can kind of put into practice and reach out. First of all, John, as you said on November the 7th, be open to being open. Attraction can bring us together. Empathy and effort can keep us together. Confide in those you love and let them do the same with you. There we go, John. Tweeting like a Bible verse there, mate. But come on in.
John verse 2. Tweet 8.
Yeah, absolutely. John 3:16. Just get it all. Right, okay. All right. Thank you, mate. That's the greatest title ever achieved.
No, but 3:16, that's Stone Cold.
That's Steve, isn't it? The other apostle.
Steve Austin, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Well, listen, John, a big thanks for your support so far. And if you want to tweet in, you just DM us, mate, at this point because you follow us, don't you? Yeah. All right, nice one.
Best buds.
Yeah.
There's something else that isn't on this list that I want to talk about.
Cool.
And I'm going to be very, very loose in how I approach this. So we've mentioned on several episodes all throughout the year that we've been doing this, that, Leo, Jason, and co have been traveling the world to go to all these events to meet indie publishers and so on, to look at their new games and so on. We just had the fruit of that work is starting to come together now. We just had essentially what happens is, lots of discussions happen with developers. We get insight into their vision, so on, see the games, play the games, talk about their aspirations and ambitions and so on, and how they feel their game needs to go. And essentially the next part of that is putting it to the rest of the wider team. So the whole of Wired gets to have a look at all of these games. And then there's an internal deliberation, just talking about, how great the games look, if those titles are a right fit for Wired and so on, and early thoughts on how can we actually have a lot of fun with this. But that's happened, and I just want to point out that is something that's happened. So these are for titles in the future.
Way
let's
down
say
the
that
line.
they're ahead. We've already got a large roster going up. But these are very, very forward thinking. And I just want to say, just from the batch that we looked through, it is so good. And it's I can't talk about any of these games, but it is so good to see that creativity isn't dead, that there is still amazing sparks, that you can still find something new and challenging and testing and unique out there. And it was a lot of fun to go through that and actually just be reminded of, not everything is iterative, and there is still so many exciting ideas and concepts out there. So I just want to bring that up.
No, that's a really lovely thing. In fact, I had a very kind of a rare occurrence these days. I'll go tangential even further. So everyone's got a watch list these days. It's Netflix or whatever, and it gets to a point now where everyone's recommending something to you. So people that you really care about and people whose opinions really matter to you will recommend something to you, and you just don't listen to them because you don't have time. All right, I love you, Mum, but I'm not watching Dharma. I've got too many other things going on. Give it a break. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. My mum's always sending me some serial killer, true crimey stuff. She's always like, this is fascinating. Yeah, if you've got too much time on your hands, Mum, right?
You should watch The Crown. You should watch The Crown. It's on my watch list.
It's on my watch list. And now ever increasing is the playlist as well, isn't it? You've got your game backlog, haven't you? Yeah. Well, I got probably one of the most exciting things if you're passionate about video games. I had somebody come to me and say, Jake, I realise that I've only played a couple of games, Skyrim and Assassin's Creed. Can you pick a couple of games off Game Pass that I can play? Can you imagine the power, the joy, the excitement that you feel when you go, you know what, I will. And these are all going to be played and actioned very soon. So you're going through it all and thinking, wow, this is somebody with a complete clean slate. They don't know about this. So I was picking, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you go through and you just think, and you kind of remind yourself when you're going on that little tour, the little Game Pass list tour, oh my gosh, there's so many original ideas. They're just there, ripe for the picking. I just picked like a Donut County or Inside and little bits like that, just little ones that you go, oh yeah, and it's lovely. So you've done that, but unfortunately for the wider audience, in the super secret Illuminati game way, where we can't really talk about it, which it's not as exciting as it sounds sometimes, because half of the fun is when it comes out and you can actually see what people think of it. But isn't that a lovely feeling? Just looking and going, yeah, that was a good one.
That person you were talking to as well, I like the boldness of, hey, I haven't played any games besides Skyrim and Assassin's Creed. Talk about massive things to be like. Yeah. But the thing is, though, I do like the fact that someone can. I think there's and I have this issue as well, where the treadmill of the industry is always going. There's always new releases, new things to discover, and you do get that backlog, right? But I do like the idea of people out there. For example, Jake, you love The Witcher, right? But I just love the fact that there are probably people out there that are just taking their time with The Witcher, enjoying everything it has to offer, all the world. It's like I forget. We met her a lot of times. She's known online as Shirley Curry. Who is known as the Skyrim Grandma. Who is a friend of Wired, and we've met her in the past at shows and so on. Big fan of the Kaioken team in Deliver Us the Moon. But she spends most of her time just playing Skyrim constantly. Do you know what I mean? Taking beautiful photos, enjoying the scenery, and it's not just I'm gonna smash this quest and I'm gonna get this armor, that armor. It's like I'm just appreciating this, and I like the fact there are people out there that do that, because that feels like so calm.
It feels so like, freeing in a way, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I might pick that up in a couple of years, and I just think, yeah. So yeah, great. Well, look, I mean, the Wired propaganda this week has been exciting. It's been dynamic, and you know what? It's unrelenting, because this is the big one, isn't it?
This is the big one.
When you were on about the fruits of your labour, I thought this is what you were on about. But
I want to throw this in because it does kind of follows on, I guess, in terms of recognition and so on. And Wired have won, indie publisher awards in the past. Titles have won awards and so on, which is always amazing, right? To be picked out of such a massive games that, you look at Steam and how many games release every single day, but to be pinpointed out amongst such a vast array of amazing games is always incredible. Right. But we're going to talk about something to do with Game Awards in general in a bit anyway, but GamesEnquirer, so GamesEnquirer.com, they have just announced their Game Awards as well. And it's incredible. It's incredible for two reasons. So Arcade Paradise has been nominated for Indie Game of the Year, and you can go on to GamesEnquirer.com now and vote for Arcade Paradise if you want. Amazing games in the lineup and roster as well. The incredible other thing is that Wired have been shortlisted for Publisher of the Year. Publisher of the Year, right? And this isn't Indie Publisher of the Year, right? And we're up against and included against the incredible folks at Warner, SEGA, Devolver, and PlayStation. That's the
good company.
That's the level of That's the level, and then Wired Productions, which is amazing. And I think, if you do love Wired, if you love the output, if you love the team, if you love what Wired do, then the support is always appreciated. And it's always good just to be there. But I think the incredible thing about this is, we've had Leo, Jason, and Kevin on in the past to talk about, Wired starting from a kitchen table. And the amazing thing about this is, that there are larger companies in there that have a lot of turnaround in the company and so on. But Wired, the heart of Wired has always been the same. Do you know what I mean? Like Leo always mentions, like, Wired is a family with the developers and so on. And that is very true. And I think it's beautiful and an honor to be in that mix of incredible entities.
Megacorps.
You said it, not me.
Well, I think if you Google them all, I think the word conglomerate comes up with nearly all of them. Yeah. So yeah, it's very Jason and Goliath, but I think it's honestly a true honor to actually be amongst and recognized out of, again, so many indie publishers, developers. And this isn't an indie publisher award; it's just a publisher award, which is fantastic to be spotlighted within that. All right, so
that's incredible to be amongst such such amazing.
It's entities. Like the Mount Rushmore of publishers here. And do you know what is so nice about that? So many of them are so big that I hope that certain people will look at that and go, "Oh, Wired Productions, who are they?" And have a little, it's great for that sort of thing, isn't it? And then because, maybe a normie who only knows Sega would be like, "Oh, what's that?" So shouts out to the normies, though. We love you. And also, when you're voting, I just want you to consider one thing, How many Sega podcasts have you listened to? None, because there isn't any. All right, thanks.
Newsweek stuff from Google.
All right, so we've had enough internal discussion. I think it's time we take things to the wider crowd of, well, literally everybody else. There's been a lot going on in the news in general this week, mate. And we had a bit of a stormer last week. For those that are watching this instead of listening, you'll notice that my dog has just appeared. So a little treat for the viewers there.
Look at that face.
Yeah. Right, attention seeker. Right, I'm moving out of the way. All right, so that's not news, unfortunately. I've got a dog. It's quite boring.
Gotta pay him now.
Yeah, exactly. That's the appearance fee. The paperwork's going to be a nightmare on this one. What have you brought this week, Aaron, to the table for the news?
Just following on from what we're talking about. Awards, Jake. Awards. The Game Awards is coming up. And this week, the lists of nominations were announced. There are great games in there of all shapes and sizes. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 actually got nominated for Best RPG and Game of the Year and things like that, which was, everyone was like, "Oh, Xenoblade's not going to get."
It's going to be snubbed. Yeah.
But it's good that it's there. It's good that it's there. Now people can do their part. But I think it's fair to say, if you have been on Twitter or follow members of the games industry, there has been a bit of interesting feedback. I'm not going to say war has been started, but there's been a bit of interesting feedback on the nominees.
Yeah.
And also, I guess the concept of award shows as a whole, because what's being picked out kind of follows along to the Oscars and the Emmys and Grammys and things like that. What have you made of this?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because the thing is, I don't mind I like a bit of celebration. I like a celebration of an industry I like. I don't mind the Oscars, actually. I didn't really like it last year. But, I'm quite into the films and whatever. I think when Parasite won, it was exciting. The thing with Game of the Year, it's the Game Awards. I've got, look, the thing is, I work in marketing in my day job. I work with influencers. I love the industry and I like the excitement about it. In my personal, honest to God opinion about the Game Awards, I just don't know what it is. It's half of it's commercials for games that are on the way, but at the same time, it is just products, isn't it? It's products winning awards, so why not advertise those products during there? But I just find it a little bit I don't know, man. My honest opinion is that I'm a bit bored of Jeff Keighley being on everything. I like him, but I just wish there was something a bit different, and I wish it was a bit more about the games. That being said, I hope Elden Ring wins, and it probably will. That's my opinion on it. But
let's be honest, it's got a high chance. I think the only thing standing in its way is maybe God of War.
2-horse race for
God
sure.
Of War.
Right?
I mean, this is the thing, right? I think from a so just to be upfront, I know as well a lot of people that are on the judging panel. For the Game Awards, they come from different media outlets across the world, and they come together and they deliberate and put their votes in for what they think should be part of the shortlist. I think where it comes unstuck slightly is, for example, you have God of War Ragnarok there for Game of the Year. This is a game that has been out for 10 seconds. Let's be honest, but critically, it has done phenomenally well. Now, I myself have not had a chance to dive into it. I bought it because I was like, the reviews are great. So, from a critic perspective, them saying, "Oh, we've all had the chance to play it, and the review scores are unanimous, so this has to be including the Game of the Year thing." Where it comes unstuck for me is then that list is then put out to the public, and it becomes a popularity contest then, right? Because it's like, have you played all of these games that you're voting on? Can you vote based on any unbiased opinion? Or do you vote as a fan? And it's kind of like, well, maybe the winners of the main awards should be chosen by the judging panel, and then they should have, like most award shows have, which is the audience choice award or similar. Just because I do think it's a bit it is a bit out of whack. And
no, that's exactly my issue with it as well. I didn't know if we were going to talk about that in general, but for example, you go on Metacritic, and you look at the user score for any game, and it is an absolute dumpster fire. There's literally think of the most middle of the road game, and you'll find about 1,000 reviews that are giving this game 10 out of 10 to combat the other 1,000 reviews that are giving it 0 out of 10. And people just get emotional about this. And the Steam review system's all right, because you need to kind of buy the game first. So that's good. But if I can go on Metacritic right now, or another way, or Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, pick something out of a hat. I don't know, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Not seen it. I could go in there and give it a 10 out of 10 or a 0 out of 10. And my opinion's as valid as someone who's just watched it, or someone who's been waiting for it, or whatever. And there's just no moderation there, is there? Now, people will say, well, critics are the same. Well, not really, because it's their profession, and they have to have some sort of, for the most part, prove that they can play it. Some of them arguably don't do that, but whatever. There's burn apples everywhere. But the point is, it's a lot less likely to happen. If there's 1,000 reviews, we can safely assume that at least 900 critics have played it properly. If there's 1,000 user reviews, I don't even trust 300 of them have played it properly. And the reviews are so knee jerk. So look, you're right about the Ragnarok. The popularity contest thing also, by the way, kills any indie game's chance of winning anything, which is a shame, solely because of the user base. Like, just by the very nature of the industry, God of War and Elden Ring, we're talking in the millions of sales. You get a lovely indie game. I don't know how many people have really picked up.
Tunic.
like a Tunic, or like as Dusk Falls or something smaller like that. Like whatever. So I don't.
There was something else also called into question, and this goes back to something you said unintentionally as well. So you mentioned Xbox Game Pass person recommending them. Yep. Donut County. I did. Now, do you know what game the developers made after that?
Ben Esposito. I don't actually know. I know who the developers. But...
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Let me have a look. Yeah. All right. Neon White.
Neon White.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. So that has been included for an award for best debut game.
Yeah.
But the developers, it's not their debut.
Yeah, I see.
But there are things like that, and I don't mind that so much. I think Neon White is absolutely an incredible game, and I think it disrupted enough to be on that list, and it is a great game. And then I think something else that was called into question, and I don't agree with this. I just want to bring up some discussion that's been out in the wild. Right, but there's a content creator of the year, right? And one of those in the mix is I do not slander because I bow to this person and all the stuff they've done, but it's Nibelian.
Yeah.
Who quit the space because of Twitter, because, everything that they were doing was in the realms of Twitter. And so they're there for Content Creator of the Year, even though they don't currently create content elsewhere at the moment. I think people have been saying, well, it seems like a bit of a Hail Mary because this person is so well loved, and it's good to reward the efforts. And sorry, I do want to say this. I hope that they win, because I think the contribution has been staggering and astounding. But again, I can just see some of the conflict and confusion around the categories.
Well, that's completely fair. Because again, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but in my day job, I work with influencers, right, or content creators, and Nibelian, again, who is like the most. So for those that don't know who Nibelian is, by the way, and you can't really find out anymore, Nibelian was literally a Twitter account that basically collated, curated, and condensed all the C's here. Games content. I don't know how they did it. I honestly don't know how they did it. They reminded me of like that weird like spider guy who works in the engine room in Spirited Away. Just tons of arms. Yeah. Nibel must have been like that. Basically, any E3 show, any direct, any sort of digital showcase, Nibel would live tweet it with just like the TLDR. That was the only account you needed, and you could pretty much pick up any bit of video game news. However, creating content, well, they were tweeting things that were happening as they were happening. Are news readers content creators? Well, blah, blah. So there's a whole conversation about, well, is Making Anything a content, compared to the other content creators who are more, let's say, internet personalities. And again, their content that they're creating is basically them playing games. But the point is, it's become a huge argument online, like everything becomes. But this one's particularly interesting, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting, because it's also, how do you distill a list of content creators down? Did you just go for these people are very popular this year? Because I'm not going to lie, almost every time, not entirely, but almost every time I see this list, I'm like, I've not really had them thrust into my
life
purview, into my life, into my view. And it's like, what is the criteria? What constitutes as being a content creator of the year? Do you know what I mean?
I always think that too. And I think from my understanding, I think that's just simply, it's the size of the creator. But look, nearly all the time, and this is not a disparaging statement, but nearly all the time, the content creators who are nominated, their audience are kids who just like obviously are huge into them, so their views balloon.
Yeah.
So like, it's one of them where it's like, if you know, you know. Like, if you don't know who Ludwig is, it means nothing. But if you know who Ludwig is, Ludwig is your everything. It's like a Spice Girls poster on a wall.
It's like my Alter Bridge.
Yeah,
a lot of people go around like, oh yeah, Alter Bridge. And then I'll go into depth of like, this is why you need to love Alter Bridge. Like, just go into the passion, background, and the music and the history.
Yeah.
But you know, it is. If you know, then they are your passion.
Like, I guess it's like, I guess the way to describe it, actually, to distill it down to like a sentence or two, it's stan culture, isn't it? It's like stan BTS. It's like K-pop, J-pop culture. If you're into it, you're a lifer. You're a Ludwig or Pokimane lifer. But for everyone else, you just don't care. Because it's like it's hard to commit to all of these different content creators because they're daily vlogging. But listen, they got bazillion trillion views, right? So yeah, there's a lot to it. Sorry about that. If you can hear some background noise here, Curtis, I'm really sorry about that.
It's the fans. The fans trying to get in. They found out where he lives.
Yeah, my only fan is my daughter. Unfortunately,
those steamy email role plays are going to come to fruition now.
Finally,
you didn't respond, Jake.
Yeah. What? Oh, we need to know. Anyway, sorry. I'm really sorry if you can hear that. Wait. So
it's really sad about the state of the Game Awards.
Yeah, it's Nobel.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I mean, but the question is, would this conversation be very different if Wired were nominated for a Game Award?
But even then,
I think this would still come as a topic.
Yeah, exactly, and it's interesting to see people complaining about it this time because nothing has changed. That's the one. That was my takeaway from it. Nothing with, because I was like, oh, why is everyone talking about the Game Awards or kind of like in this bit of a civil war? What have they done different this time? And I was like, oh, so first of all, the Game of the Year is like the publicly voted category. But then I was like, otherwise, I think people are just talking about awards. Like this conversation happens every Oscars. Like you said at the very, very top of it, you know. So it's just interesting, isn't it? So yeah, it's not like there's not other stuff that we can talk about because there's loads that's been going on this week. But everyone seems to just really gravitating towards a bit of that. So. Yeah,
I'm going to be very honest with you. It's been a bit weird over the last couple of years, but for the gamer soul in me, I do like the hype around the moment of the Game Awards because it's a transition to Christmas. It's a transition to the end of the year, and I love how it feels, and it's nice to see people gathering together to celebrate. And it's let's be honest. Again, I don't want to disparage the Game Awards because I do enjoy watching it, but why do I enjoy watching it? Do I enjoy watching it to see who wins the awards of games that I can play and enjoy and that I know my own personal opinion on, or do I enjoy the announcements, which do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing that I remember last year. I enjoyed the announcements, but it just makes me laugh that they'll show a trailer. Then sometimes they'll have the presenter on the screen and they'll have like on the side the names of the games, and it'll be like, oh, and by the way, the winner of Best Mobile Game was blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so this is...
It was announced on the red button. Go check it out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it feels like, isn't it? And then it's like, it was like, anyways, let's look at Dead Space or whatever. So, I mean, I watch it, but I'm always just like, this is like two things at once that should be separate. But I like watching it every year, and I am always invested. So I watch it, like, say, it's a nice Christmassy thing. And, didn't they do Elden Ring at the Game Awards? Didn't they show that off?
Yeah.
So there we go. I can't be that miserable, can I? Anyway, that's it. Good. Yeah. So the Game Awards, and do you know what? I'm really looking forward to it because you can bet your bottom dollar that when we hear these results, we will pretty much dedicate an entire episode breaking it down because it's like E3 in a way, isn't it? Even though it's an important conversation, and it'll be really interesting. And you know what? We'll all learn something. So
I'm not going to get my hopes up, but you know, once before Nintendo did announce Metroid at a Game Awards, they also showed off a brand new trailer for Breath of the Wild when that was about.
Mm-hmm.
But then they have done less and less over the last few years. But you know, you never know. You
can't predict Nintendo.
I go in with no expectations.
Yeah.
And just like to go along for the ride.
Yeah,
long ride.
Cool. I'll tell you what I'm hoping for. No big deal, but I'm hoping for a new Hideo Kojima horror game. Thanks.
Come on, that's going to happen, right? Like, if it's going to happen anywhere.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if it is, I'm not sure of all the ins and outs, but apparently there's a project that Kojima's making with Xbox
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
There's been a Kojima Productions and Xbox kind of little announcement, hasn't there?
But let's be honest, Jeff and Kojima, so like that. So
exactly. Let's see what he's cooking up. So there we go. That's the Game Awards nominees news. What else happened in the world?
This isn't news I stole off the internet, but I just want to circle back on what we discussed last week. Wow, I sound like I'm in a meeting. I just want to circle back on.
What type of circle? Is it like a high-speed loop-de-loop?
It is a side loop, you might say. But no, I've been playing Sonic, and I know we spoke about the reviews and the reception and stuff last week, but I'm genuinely, I don't know if I'm surprised, but I am happy that I'm actually having a really good time with it, and that it is the type of game that you can just come back to for 10 minutes, which is how I have to kind of consume games now. And it's not interesting. It's interesting to me. If I have lunch, there is not really time to play a game and get into something. But just yesterday, I had a lunch break. Surprise, surprise. And I put Sonic on and I played for 10 minutes and it was nice. I just did a few puzzles. I did a bit of exploration and it's good. Like, so far I'm like, this feels nice, and sure, it's got some really odd decisions in, like there's little missions you can take part in, stuff that I'm like, oh, this feels a bit annoying. But I do, on the whole, I like it. I'm having a good time with it. I'm surprised that it has, I'm still playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3 at the moment. That is my main game. Mm-hmm. But this has overtaken any moment. I'm like, oh, do you know what? I can put Sonic on. It feels happy to play, even though it's quite sad. But it's just nice to run around and do a few puzzles. And it's got that Mario Odyssey, but kind of Breath of the Wild thing of, oh, I've detected a shrine. I'll mark that. I'll go to that later. There's some random NPC over here that I should explore. And it's just cathartic and nice to play.
That's really nice because, you say about it not being that interesting, but there's a lot of people who'll be listening to this who have work from home lunch breaks and will probably know the pain of, like, I remember when I tried to play a bit of Red Dead Redemption 2 on a lunch break and getting absolutely nothing done.
It's hard, right?
I had to quit out of the quest halfway through. And then when I picked it back up later, the quest started from the beginning. So it was literally me and Dutch on a horse for 20 minutes again. And it's annoying because there's no radio, so I couldn't even drown him out. They don't have horse radio and that, so it was just him again going on about some grand plan I didn't care about.
Yeah, that's like a grand experience. It's not necessarily rooted in quick moment to moment gameplay.
No,
right?
Exactly. Very cinematic, and we'll segue later on into that. But that's good. I'm glad that you're able to just jump in and out. And half of this is just tempering your expectation, isn't it? You don't need it to be the best game ever. As long as you're having a game that you're enjoying and playing it a bit, what more do you want? It's like you don't eat a Big Mac or other burgers are available and go, oh, this was a delectable experience. You go, this is what I wanted. I know exactly how much I paid for it. Slam that. There we are.
Sometimes, if you're used to very nice food, sometimes you are just in the mood for a standard McDonald's cheeseburger. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry, that's not me disparaging the quality of Sonic. I actually think it's a nice package, and it's not the best game ever. And if you look at things we'll talk about later about recent AAAs like God of War and so on, it's in a very different camp. But just the feel of playing it is great, and I'm glad that it exists. Yeah,
that's wicked. Honestly, and some people are. And in fact, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a beautiful little nod to a previous moment we shared together on this very podcast. The Metacritic reviews, the user reviews. Have you seen this?
No.
Have you not?
No.
On Steam and on Metacritic user reviews, Sonic Frontiers has got a higher score than Elden Ring. Because of the fever.
Sorry, did you say review? A user review?
User reviews, yeah. No, of course, not real reviews.
Okay, yeah, we did touch on this last week as well, didn't we?
Yeah, but Sonic Frontiers is actually like more users are giving Sonic a 10 out of 10 than Elden Ring, and then like they're review bombing Elden Ring for a meme. So it's like Sonic. If you listen to the voice of the people, is way better than Elden Ring this year because it's quite good. So I just thought that was a bit of a funny thing, haha. And you'll be able to see, I think Sonic is actually the highest rated game of the year on Metacritic user review scores because people are just saying leave Sonic alone. It's actually quite fun. So make of that what you will. But I just want to let you know that that's what's been happening.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah. What else have we got in the news cycle this week?
The maestro, creative maestro, Shigeru Miyamoto,
Oh yeah.
has turned 70. This week he turned 70 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And he is still very involved at Nintendo. They did change his role to be a creative fellow. He's very involved in the movie side with the Super Mario movie, which the trailer looks very cool, I will admit. And, he's just announced Pikmin 4, which is a game that's been cooking for a long time, and is obviously still involved in the day in, day out and feel of the games internally at Nintendo. And I just thought it's what a nice... what a great impact he has had on the world of video games, and just to wish a happy birthday. But also, I want to discuss, I did just say he has turned 70 years old. What are your plans for when you're 70, Jake?
Yeah, well, I don't think they'll be as grand as Mr. Miyamoto's, but I don't really know. I'll just be happy to be here, drink some good coffee, and just chilling out. Do you know what?
Jamie, though, do you still plan when you're 70 to not be retired if the option is available, or if you are 70, still be working in games and in the fields that we're in at the moment?
Well, I like the idea of working in video games forever. It's been a passion of mine for my whole life, and the idea of wherever it goes next is incredibly exciting. And the idea of it as escapism, I love it. I think I'll always be passionate about it, and it's going to be interesting, to see. I mean, maybe I will finally get to play the sequel to Donkey Kong Country, which hopefully they'll make at some point. Tropical Freeze, Tropical
Freeze, very good game.
It's wicked. My favorite platformer ever, actually. But
it's wonderful.
Yeah,
plus funky mode.
I think it's I think it's it's interesting, and it's I don't think anything I can say will come across as anything other than a bit haphazard and probably, I don't know, just a bit ignorant. But culturally, I know that in Japan they've got a really great working culture, and people will dedicate themselves a lot more to a discipline for life than over here. So that's why we see Studio Ghibli's sort of mastermind Miyazaki still working at the grand old age of 94 is he now? Yeah,
he's currently making a new film. Came out of retirement again. Yeah.
Come out of retirement more than Tyson Fury for the boxing fans.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And he's also just released the short with
the Grogu,
with Lucasfilm, the Grogu and
the Dust Bunnies,
Dust Sprites.
That's it. Yeah. It's called Zen. If anyone wants to check
I haven't watched it yet. It's on my list. It's on my list. On my watch list. But what a random, cool
collaboration
thing to have happen.
Yeah. So that's really crazy. If anyone doesn't know what we're on about here, Lucasfilm, Star Wars IP, and Disney are kind of intertwined. And in a kind of Iron Maiden versus Metallica, PlayStation versus Xbox way, some people are really passionate about this whole Disney versus Studio Ghibli, however you pronounce it. I say Ghibli because
I say Ghibli as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's Ghibli, but look, it sounds exactly. It sounds too Michelin star for me. That. Yeah. So Studio Ghibli, I'm a Studio Ghibli head. That's where I'm at. Disney, I love it. I do like it. Who doesn't, right? Sickos, but most people like that because it's supposed to make you feel good. But I'm a Studio Ghibli guy, so Lucasfilm and Studio Ghibli collaborating. Wow, what a wonderful thing! And that sort of entrancing art style and the timbre of their storytelling, the way that everything is so brilliant. So to collab and Grogu as well, cute baby Yoda for those who are just unaware. Come on.
I think what I love about Ghibli as well is that, as you said, people say, it's the Japanese Disney, but there's a big distinction where Disney was making films for kids and families, whereas the work of Ghibli, though it's anime styling, and kids consume it, they are grown-up stories, right? And that's what I like about it. It's not like anime, it's a cartoon that defaults it to being for kids, but it's anime and it is good content. It is good movie making. It is good storytelling. And
don't put your kids in front of Grave of the Fireflies and then at me. Absolutely.
You you mentioned this before, didn't you?
I think I have, yeah.
Maybe that was just between you and me.
We've spoken about it. Yeah, you and I have spoken about it. But nonetheless, Shigeru Miyamoto at the grand age of 70 is still going. I think what he's up to at the moment, and you're our Nintendo expert here, but I think he's working on the what's it called, the theme park. Super Mario World. Yeah, he's like doing a bit of architectural oversight there.
Super Nintendo World. He and his team were involved in how the attractions would function, not just what the rides are, but how a user would feel that they are inside the Mushroom Kingdom and how they can interact with the jump blocks. And it's got the cool NFC wristbands that you can watch. And
so
it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about Miyamoto, isn't it? It's a man living his dream. Like, he's learned a discipline. He's a very clever man. And I think the important thing about him is some people are what you call a practitioner in this life, where they're really good at a discipline or a process. But some people are like teachers who understand why things work, not just how to do it. And Miyamoto is like a teacher. He understands why that would be fun, why the jump blocks would be fun. Yeah. And that's why he can go from thing to thing. So 70 is a fantastic age. I honestly think...
There's a really interesting story. And it was from someone on the Zelda team. And they said, we're doing a lot of iteration and finding the heart of what Breath of the Wild would be early on. And they made they had Miyamoto in to test some features and so on. And he was like, he spent 45 minutes just climbing the trees up and down. And it was like, and that's when we knew we had something. Just because of how obsessed he was with climbing the trees and how much attention he paid to just that one specific thing of, something that you'd think of quite not necessarily normal in the game, but just how tuned in it was on the feel of it. Those minute things, and you multiply those minute things by a million different decisions that can happen in a game. It's, as you said, it's a teacher, it's an instinct, and some people have that gift.
Yeah, what an incredible person. And not that there'd ever be like a tier list of like most influential people in the games industry. I'm sure there's not, but if there was, he would definitely be S tier. Right. S for Shigeru, that's where it comes from. Canon. I've made it canon. Right. That's what I said. All right. So great. Happy birthday, mate. Thanks. Thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for Donkey Kong.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Shigsy.
Yeah, nice one, mate. So that's good. What else have we got going on?
So we've got two things, and similar to last week, we are getting close to time. So I'm going to let you take the pick of what you want to hit. I
think I'm going to pick God of War, and I'll tell you why. We did the Xbox. Me and Gary kind of touched on the Xbox update. For those that don't know, I get to pick. So the idea, just read the headline that's going into Room 101.
Yeah, so essentially for Room 101, Phil Spencer says that the Xbox business will become untenable if it remains irrelevant on mobile. And this is part of the core decision behind their intent to acquire Activision for games like Candy Crush. And the thing I wanted to discuss here, but we'll just throw it into the room, was, Xbox have trialed many things on mobile in the past, such as, smart glass and things like that. But what does the future for Xbox look like on mobile, considering that Game Pass is in the mix and that, you can already use Game Pass on mobile devices in some instances? They're working on a streaming device down the line. But what does an Xbox involvement in mobile look like outside of just Activision brands? Who knows? Anyway, and then the other thing was Phil Spencer being totally open to having a discussion with Sony about keeping Call of Duty on the platform for the long term. There was a whole thing that we could have gone into there, but let's just cast that into the pit of despair.
We'll come back to you, Phil, mate.
It will come up again and again.
It absolutely will. It absolutely will. I'm sure it'll just mere weeks away. So what's this then? So what we ended on? What's the finale?
So
it's big news, isn't
it? It's quite big news. It's quite big news. So God of War Ragnarok launched. And first of all, the question has to be asked, just to follow up on last week. Did you go to Asda?
I went specifically to Asda to get a box because I didn't. For those that didn't know, I was fuming that I had to download 189 gig of digital game. So I bought the physical edition, and there was a 20 gig install off the disc onto the PlayStation. Otherwise, that was it. So there we go.
Yeah. Smooth.
Thanks,
Smooth
Asda.
criminal. Yeah. Have you played it yet?
I have played it. I've played 4 hours of it.
Okay.
And then I've been away for a week. So yeah, I played 4 hours, and I've got to say, I was enjoying it. I was a little bit. Now, I suppose the beginning of the game is making all sorts of commitments of the player. But one thing I did find, my one sort of criticism about the game is I reckon in those 4 hours, I genuinely believe about one of those 4 hours was me holding the pad, watching things happen in front of me. And I could move side to side, but it's a lot of me as Kratos standing there while a dwarf is patronizing me. And again, and if I want a dwarf to patronize me, I'm going to go and speak to my mum about Jeffrey Dahmer documentaries on Netflix again. She listens to this podcast, so that was for you, Mum. Just joking. Listen, love you. So honestly, the truth of the matter is, I found myself a little bit not disappointed, but it happened in the first game. But I found myself waiting around for me son and the dwarf to carry on their comment, or whatever. It's not the dwarf. Yeah. I'm using that as a bit of a straw man. But the point is, there was a lot of things going on, and me as a player was sitting there going, right. All right, then am I going to get...
Do you think that this is the prep? Do you think this is the prep for what's to come, or do you think it's going to be...
Do you know what? I'd like to think so, but now I'm not getting a vibe that it's going to slow down anytime soon, because like I'm getting into it quite a bit. After a couple of hours, you're a bit into it. And I tell you what, I will say though, the tempo of the storytelling is really nice. Like they do a lot of cool things. You know, they keep me guessing, and they did it with the first game. We were talking about it last week, where we were on about this happens, and then they did. I've already had in 4 hours. I've had 2 moments that I would consider. Oh, did you? Two of those moments in just the first few hours, and it's very cool. And I'm confident that they're not front loading it with shocks and that. Have you played a bit of it?
No. So I own it. Sonic. I blame Sonic.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. Well,
I will. I am going to get to. I am going to get to it because I do want to get back in the saddle.
Well, you're not the only person that bought it. Because
No.
What have you got?
Good way to side loop that background.
There you go.
Recall the axe.
Very good.
So to speak.
Very good.
Box launch sales in the UK have beaten Modern Warfare 2 and Elden Ring, which as a totality this year is second only to FIFA 23, which, as we know, year on year, absolutely massive, mind-blowing numbers. Yeah. Interestingly, 82% of the sales are on PS5 with 18% on PS4. And, I think at the early days of the PS5 when Sony made the announcement, and, Xbox have a similar thing going on where they were like, all of our games, at this moment in time are being made for PS4 and PS5. And I think there's a lot of people going, oh, but I've bought this new machine. Why can't I get all the bells and whistles? And what do these numbers say about that? Do you think that this kind of dictates that next year onwards that kind of trails away of that dual development thing, and more resources put into simply PS5, or do you think it's?
Well, you know what? This actually so. I found this really interesting, first of all. This is really, really interesting to me because I would never have guessed the sales were this heavily skewed. No, never.
I should point out, and I don't think this would make much difference in this case, that this is physical and doesn't account for digital at this point.
No, right. And so if you're like me and you were scorned by the large download size and you went to buy the box copy out of spite, the PS4 had the same problem. So it wasn't like it was a ridiculous commitment on the PS5, but the PS4 was a lot more manageable. So digital downloads would be a lot higher. And it couldn't. This is a landslide, in my opinion. 82-18 is whopping. That's nearly. That's 8 out of 10 people. 8 out of 10 people will buying it on PS5. Well, that to me shows a lot because I actually don't know what the sales of the PS5 are like. We had a pandemic and there was a lot of people who couldn't get one.
Chip shortage.
Yeah, and anecdotally, I'm still one of 3 of my group of friends that has one, and we're all into video games. So this was huge to me to hear this, and suddenly that's changed my mind on what you've just asked. will we see that trail off a lot quicker? I think now maybe a yes, because ultimately, and this sounds a bit brutal for those that are on the old gen now, I guess you'd call it, is that the creating for 2 gens is holding it back. In fact, we saw in the news just a few weeks ago that developers had kind of written a letter to kind of Microsoft at large and said, can you please not make it mandatory that we create games for the Series S, which for those that aren't completely aware is the weakest of the new generation. In fact, it's more akin to an Xbox One X, because they're saying it's holding it back. That they have to optimize a game. It's like if it was mandatory to make a next gen game on the Nintendo Switch, it would hold back the power. And you find that with the Nintendo Switch's lack of power, porting issues happen a lot, and it's why Nintendo Switch releases are often a little bit later. So
I do. It's quite. We're having this conversation, and I don't think what I'm about to say is true. But there could also be that somewhere within the technological palace of Sony and PlayStation, they have made some, just for their internal teams, some tools that help dual development in terms of how that works. Yeah. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think everything still requires extensive testing and tweaking.
And I mean, look, I'm just like I've got my PlayStation 5, and I want it to be a bit of a graphical powerhouse. And I'm yet to have Ratchet and Clank is probably where the bar is, but for me personally, and like what's nice to my eyes, Fire and Steel, Demon Souls, which is Demon Souls, which is a launch title, is the best looking PS5 game still. Ratchet and Clank did have some nice, particle effects and whatnot, but I just wanted more suffering. So Demon Souls to me is beautiful. And
Jake's review of Ratchet and Clank, not enough suffering.
Not enough suffering. Absolutely
7
not.
out of 10.
But look, for example, look at Demon Souls compared to Elden Ring, right? Don't be that reductive and judge it based on that. But look at what would happen if maybe you could create. There's all sorts of other factors in the size of the world of Elden Ring. Absolutely trounces Demon Souls linear PS3 design. But the point I'm trying to make is, I do think that it's holding people back from the graphical fidelity that can possibly exist when you're making just things just for next gen, as well as some of the other exciting advancements. Like it will probably help incentivize the motor control on the triggers and the likes. Yeah. But that being said, just to sort of shoot myself in the foot there, shoot myself with a gun, Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2 looks absolutely gorgeous on PS5, and that's also on PS4. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I hope to see it transition out, because I feel like it's been a few years now. And when you look traditionally, and you all know as well as I and a lot of people listening, normally that next gen step is a little bit more of a step. This has been a very slow, slow climb. Yeah, it has. And so, but
let's be honest though. The more variables you have in play. So, for example, at the moment for Xbox and Sony is to create what should be, trailblazing next gen experiences and trying to accommodate them to the last generation, which were no slouches. The more variables you have in that sense, then the less you can commit to in terms of blazing that trail, right? And then just so that everyone knows that I'm not biased, Nintendo have the same issue. And that, the moment they released the Switch Lite is the moment that they couldn't really keep supporting some of the cool console features like the HD rumble in the controllers and so on, which got really good interest and use at the start, but that's kind of gone out of the window now. And it's just the more variables you add in, the more you split off, the less that you can make a very defined experience for a defined audience.
Yeah, that's a really great way of looking at it. And actually, that's a trend that you see a lot with launch titles. They normally are using all of the bells and whistles, so to speak, of the hardware capabilities. And then over time, things become a bit more of a homogenous experience, especially when the really big third parties come on. So, but super interesting stat. So for those that didn't catch it, just wanted to say it again, because it is actually staggering. It is 82-18. 82% of physical sales for God of War, which is normally quite indicative of the split on digital too. It's crazy. So God of War being absolutely outselling Modern Warfare and Elden Ring is, well, just for those that, just state the obvious, both Modern Warfare 2 and Elden Ring are third-party titles. God of War is the only first-party title in that discussion, and that's interesting. And of course, that all feeds back into itself because, of course, PlayStation exclusives will sell and Xbox Ones won't because they're Game Pass. More on that literally any other time. You guys know this.
Every other week.
Yeah, and speaking of every other week, next week we'll be here to answer any questions, maybe. You might have some.
Maybe Gary might be here.
Yeah, we don't know.
Huh,
Will Aaron survive? I don't think
Gloria Gaynor can answer that.
I don't think you've done anything that bad. I think the only thing that could scupper your chances is if John Cena gets older. But listen, come on, tribute. Now listen, thanks everybody for checking us out for one extra week. We've got questions hopefully to answer next week. I'd like to hear. Do you know what question I'd like an answer to? Yeah. If you were a god, like the thing is about this is bad. If you were a god in God of War, yeah, like what would you be the god of? You got to be the god of something, yeah. You tell me what it is.
This is a question to everyone, yeah.
This is a question to everybody. Okay. Yeah. And please tweet it at us, and we'll find out. And then the best god we will pay tribute to. All right. Blasphemous, I know, but we'll do it. All right, if it's good. Thank you, everybody. Aaron, thank you. And
pleasure, my friend.
Enjoy the nondescript tea. Everyone else, we'll see you next week. Thank you. Stay warm. Happy November. Bye.
Wired Unplugged.